Hey, how are y'all doing today? My name is David Gugino, and in today's book review, I've got a financial book that I'll be reviewing. And if any of you have Netflix, the series is I Will Teach You to Be Rich, starring Ramit Sethi, who is a financial influencer, an author, and a business guy. Now, sorry, my phone, man. I've been timing myself on these things so I don't talk too much, but I need to start the timer. So the book is actually the same name as a Netflix series. I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. Now, this book is a very good book. I love what it says. No guilt, no excuses, no BS. Just a 6-week program that works. And to be honest, that's what it is. So when it comes to debt and finances and spending money, there's not a lot to it. It's just simple small wins, disciplinary acts, and knowing what you're buying, like credit cards, knowing what you're investing in, like stocks, 401k, and cryptocurrency, which I don't necessarily approve of that. And I read this book about a year ago, I don't believe he mentions any of that. Now, the best book I've ever read about finances is probably the 7 Baby Steps, I believe, by Dave Ramsey, which we all know Dave Ramsey stuff is all old school. But what I really love about Ramit Sethi's view on money is he believes spending extravagantly on the things you love and the things you want, and then cutting costs mercilessly on the things that you don't need. So, for example, in my powerlifting world, I like to eat my healthy food. I like to eat my chicken breasts, I like to eat my eggs, I like to eat my roast beef, turkey slices, my fruit. I also love to eat my sugary snacks, but it's not just that. I do like to eat a lot of healthy food, and that can get expensive. I'm also a big Lego guy, which when I started filming these things, I did it behind my Lego thing, but I also like to buy money on Legos. Now, how I buy Legos is so it doesn't get too crazy. I either buy one big one or I buy 2 little ones, so the cost adds differently. And if I buy a big one, like a $150 one, I wait like another maybe month or so, maybe 2 months or so before I buy another one. And that's how disciplined you have to be when it comes to buying stuff. But it's basically food and Legos are what I like to spend my money on. And how Ramit does it is he's like, if you like to buy coffee, if you like to get Starbucks every morning, you can afford Starbucks every morning. You just have to cut certain costs on things that you've been spending your money on so you don't rack up debt. Or honestly, when I say rack up debt by buying Starbucks. Like, you already have debt, but the debt's getting bigger because you're getting Starbucks every day. But I really like that view of money, and he also views flexibility. Flexibility as in, what I love about what he says the most before we dive into the book is he rents his place, he doesn't buy. And the reason he does that is because I know people say bosses don't, I think this is what he says, bosses don't rent, or like all those things on the billboards, or not only that, when it comes to buying a house, people say the American dream is to buy a house. Well, for one, it might be American's dream, but is it your dream? Because my place that I live in now, I rent and have no desire to buy. Because I learned from him, I'd rather have all this money saved for rent than have to worry about other costs when I buy a home. Or when something goes wrong, I'll have to pay for it if I own the home. Whereas I can pay the landlord to fix it. Whereas I just still have to have this amount of money to the side and this amount of money here in order to pay my rent and my other bills. So I'd rather have that flexibility than worry about owning a home where there's more stuff to pay for, there's more stuff to worry about, and it's all flexible. I was kind of all over the place there, but if that makes sense. When you rent, there's a lot more flexibility with your money than when you buy a home. And to be honest, I loved when I heard that, and that's what I continue to do, because I learned that from him. So now, let's dive into the book here. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what he talks about, missing credit card payments. Now, we all know it might not be a big deal, but not only will you owe interest on missing a credit card payment, it's just a very irresponsible thing to do, because nowadays with technology there's a thing called auto pay, as in you set up something and it pays it for you so you don't have to worry about clicking on the buttons to do it yourself. But listen to what he says about awful consequences in the chapter Optimize Your Credit Cards. Listen to what he says here. If you miss one payment on your credit card, here are 4 terrible, horrible, no good very bad results you may face. Your credit card can drop more than 100 points, which would add $227 a month to an average 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Those were a lot of words there, but that's a consequence. Your APR can go up to 30%. You'll be charged a late fee, usually around $35. Your late payment can trigger rate increases on your credit card, on your other credit cards as well. Even if you've never been late on them, I find this fact amazing. Don't get too freaked out. You can recover from the hit to your credit score, usually within a few months. In fact, if you're just a few days late with your payment, you may incur a fee, but it generally won't be reported to the credit bureau. See page 42 to find out what to do if you miss a payment. We'll get to there in just a minute, but think about that for a second. Your late payment can trigger rate increases on your other credit cards as well, even if you've never been late on them. I find this fact amazing. So yeah, think about that. It'll affect other credit cards you have, which I have one credit card and a debit card. Haven't really upgraded just yet, but we're getting there. We're getting there. But when it comes to these consequences, I know people will say this stuff to scare you, but if you really think about it, sometimes saying stuff like that triggers people or helps people being like, wow, I don't want to live this way. It's like teaching your kid to look both ways when you cross the road. You do that because you love them and want to protect them and want them to know the dangers of what happens when you don't look both ways. So that's kind of like with here, because people think it's so cute and so normal to have credit card problems, but just because everyone else does it does not mean you have to. Just because people watch pornography does not mean you have to. Because people party and go to bars every weekend does not mean you have to. So that's where mentality and discipline all come in, because in reality, you do what you want with your life. It is your life to live. God gave you this life to live it. I mean, you have to live it in His eyes and listen to His direction, but you live it the way you want to. And that's quite simple. That's in and of itself right there. But there are consequences of not paying your bills. People think it's cute and not a big deal, but there are consequences to not paying your bills. To not paying your bills. So now, let's move on to the other thing, because as crazy as it sounds, right when I turned off my camera for the first clip, I'm actually running a little low on juice. So, let's look at this here for a second. This right here is about your 401k, the retirement. And to be honest, I would love to retire someday and not have to work for the rest of your life, but some people don't, people my age don't think about that. Because since we're young and we're cocky and we think we know everything, which is crazy how we young people think, we think that life's going to be fine if we don't save for retirement and we do it later. But later, you don't know what the future holds. Also later, you don't know what's going to happen in your life. You could develop random health problems, you could develop an injury that causes work to be slightly painful. And not only that, but the best time to start anything in life is now. Starting a YouTube channel, the best time to start is now. And I know I've said that multiple times in these videos, but honestly, now is the most important time. So now, listen to what I have here about 401k. While your friends probably haven't invested a cent yet. Before we go any further, let's take a minute to understand why young millennials are not investing. This will help you do what most millennials specialize in, judging other people. That is so true. So true. Ask any of your friends how much they've invested and they'll say things like, huh? Or I don't earn enough to invest. Most of them will say, I don't know how to pick stocks, which is ironic because now we're talking about 401k now. Remember, a 401k is just a type of investment account, one that offers huge benefits that I'll cover on page 105. Here's what's stunning. Only 1/3 of people participate in a 401k. Among people earning under $50,000 a year, 96% fail to contribute the maximum amount into their 401k. And astonishingly, only 1 in 5 contributes enough to get the full company match. The company match is literally free money, so 80% of people are losing thousands of dollars per year. Investing isn't about picking stocks. Although it's true that some of them might participate in a 401k, a type of retirement account, that's probably the extent of their investments, and yet these are the most important investing years of our lives. Think about that. the most important investing years of our lives. Because that's true. You need to start out young, because when you start out young, if you keep a 401k or invest in it years down the road, by the time you're 40, you'll have a couple $100,000 in your 401k. Now you don't have to have the same job, because your company, it's going to go with you with the company you work for. It's going to go with you. Now they won't match it, but the 401k will go with you. So, when it says that, or like I mentioned earlier, judging other people, I mean, that's what we do. People judge me for being a they use the term tight ass with my money, but I like my money. I right now don't have any kids and don't have any debt, and I love to save as much as possible. Like with the factory job I just started, I have off today, so this is why I am filming in the middle of the day. But it's like with this factory job I started, there's overtime out the wazoo there, so now I'll carve in time to film these, but on a day I don't film, I'll take time to get at least 8 hours of overtime just to make some extra money. It's quite simple really, but the reason I'm bringing that up is because I want to have money in the future, and I'd also like to move. I don't really want to stay in the little town of Brazil, Indiana for the rest of my life. I would like to move, but not only is working more a habit you need to develop, well, it's not really a habit. Working more it'll teach you to work, so when that big goal comes around, you'll have the work ethic to pursue that goal. So like I got this going on, I got fighting, I got powerlifting, and I got my job. And I'd love to learn a skill at my job. But I would like to move somewhere and not live here, but in order to do that, I have to know how to work more, and I have to have money to move somewhere. I'm not starting off from scratch, I'm not starting off from zero, moving somewhere. Because, in my opinion, that's not a smart thing to do. But, this is what 401k is. 401k is a very, very good thing to invest in. And not only that, only 1/3 of people participate in a 401k. And the company matches literally free money. So 80% of people are losing thousands of dollars per year. Thousands of dollars per year. Think about that for a second. You're making thousands of dollars a year just coming to work, not having to work any extra to make that money. Think about that for a second. Now, the final thing I have for this book review is, there's a little motivation set into this, but this is getting ready to invest. So, the one thing that Ramit Sethi has learned in the world of business is very interesting. It's interesting, but it is so very, very true. So listen to this for a second. One thing I've learned in the self-development business, we all have lots of reasons why we aren't doing something we should. Like investing, flossing, or starting a business. No time, no money, not sure where to start. But sometimes the truth is simpler. Get this. Get this. Sometimes the truth is simpler, we just don't want to. So think about that. We can make all of the excuses in the entire world to not do anything with our lives, to not make more money, to not invest, and to not do anything. But the real excuse, the real one, is right in the back of our heads, and that's we just don't want to. I could not have filmed this morning. I could be sitting down watching movies or still sleeping. And I could have the excuse, oh, I'm too tired, or I won't have time, or I'll do it later. Doing it later is dangerous because you'll eventually not do it. But like that right there, we just don't want to. We don't do things, we don't change, because we simply don't want to. Wrap up this book review. So to wrap up this book review, the last thing I have, which is on the same page, is boring but true. According to a recent survey of millionaires done by U.S. Trust, 83% of the wealthy say their largest investment gains have come from smaller wins over time rather than taking big risks. No, this doesn't mean cutting back on coffee, like the Starbucks example I mentioned earlier. It means consistent, meaningful behaviors like disciplined saving and investing rather than massive speculative risks. So think about that. It means consistent, meaningful behaviors like disciplined saving and investing rather than massive speculative risks. That's what it is, just having money. Just disciplined saving, little risks, and not huge, massive risks. And speaking of risks, there was a show on Netflix, not this show, but a show called Tires. It's a comedy show, and there was an episode where one guy opened a bunch of tire franchises, or started a tire business and turned it into a franchise, and someone asked him, how'd you do that? How'd you make all that money and do that? And he goes, honestly, risk. And now, the reason I bring up that example is risking as in, why not just risk saving $100 a month? Because what is it going to do to save $100 a month? The other risk I have, disciplined saving. Maybe instead of going to a bar every weekend, spending hundreds of dollars on alcohol, try to go into a bar maybe every 2 weeks and say, alright, I'm going to budget $200 here, and this is going to be for the bar, rather than like, oh, I spent $1,000 a month on alcohol. Disciplined saving and investing. Speaking of that, the investing part, the discipline part of that. Take a chunk of your money and invest it into your 401k. Now, stocks is a whole different ball game, but think of investing in Roth IRA, 401k, another retirement account, or if you want to do stocks, do, what's it called? It's a stock, but it's like mutual funds. Mutual funds, because it's like eggs. It's like a basket of eggs. I think Dave Ramsey used an example of. It's like a basket of eggs, because if one stock fails, you have a few other stocks you can make money from. So mutual funds you can invest in. Now, he didn't mention that, but that's something that I learned and had tried to get into, but I'm probably going to get into that again later in the future. But either way, this was a good book about finance, and it is a program. It's a 6-week program that works. It's only 6 weeks out of your entire life. I recommend that you all read this book. I also recommend that you watch the series on Netflix. It's very entertaining. Ramit Sethi helps like 4, 5, 6 other people to get their finances in order, and not only that, he mentions points that I said here and mentioned points from his book, but he mentions some very good points that all you have to do is write down and take with you for hopefully the rest of your life and the rest of your financial journey. So thank you all for sitting with me through this book review. I hope you all read this, and I hope you all get your finances in order. And thank you all for watching.